Hello and welcome to Discovering Grayslake, unveiling the stories and people that make our town so unique. I'm your host, David Wool, and I'm thrilled to bring you this new podcast that explores fascinating stories and experiences of local business owners and community leaders, right here where we call home. It's time to unleash your style with custom shirts. Explore endless possibilities with Jammin' Tees. Whether it's for schools, business, team, or events, Jammin' Tees has you covered, literally, for all your custom apparel needs. Hey there, Grayslake. Looking for a good time right in the heart of our awesome community? Well, look no further than the Grayslake Village Center, your one-stop destinations for all things fun and fabulous. Picture this. Historic downtown vibes with a mix of diverse businesses, shopping galore, and restaurants that'll make your taste buds dance. But that's not all. The Village Center is where the action is, with events happening year-round for the whole family. Take a stroll through Central Park, Gelatin Park, surrounded by trails, green spaces, and more activities than you could shake a sledding hill at. And when the weather warms up, dive into the Grayslake Aquatic Center for some splash-tastic fun. But wait, there is more. Visit GrayslakeVillageCenter.com to discover the incredible lineup of events happening every month. Want the 411 delivered straight to your inbox? Sign up for the Grayslake Village Center digital newsletter on the website, or check out their Facebook page for the latest happenings. Be in the know. Not sure what you're waiting for? Come on down, soak in the local vibes, and enjoy the experience that's unmistakably Grayslake. Grayslake Village Center, where the fun never stops. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Discovering Grayslake. I am sitting here today with Steve Lawrence. Steve, how are you, buddy?
I am very well.
We're going to jump right in because we got a lot to talk about.
Okay.
So it's taken me a long time to get you on here, and I know that you have a ton of history in Grayslake.
That I do. So,
okay.
But you had too many realtors on, so I knew I had to wait.
And I don't see you as a realtor, really. I see you kind of like as a Grayslake icon. Your name comes up in everything we talk about.
Wow.
Grayslake.
Nice to hear.
Yeah,
hopefully
cool.
In a good way.
I'll tell you the good stuff.
Okay.
I'll leave the other stuff out. All right, so let's just take this because I know that anybody that saw your name that you're going to be on here, they're probably excited to hear a lot of stuff. So, and we have some notes on things you and your family and everything. But let's just start with you. So, tell me a little bit about your backstory. Did you grow up here? Just kind of let us have it.
All right, I was actually born and raised here. So I was I was the third child for my parents, and kind of came as a surprise, and was actually born at 40 South Slusser here in town.
Oh, you were born at a house?
In a house, in a house, and then that was the scientific time. So then when they transferred me to St. Therese, I had my own little room. I was quarantined. So I was, 2020, we were all quarantined. I was quarantined at one day.
You were quarantined before quarantine was cool.
And now everybody does these home births or whatever. So that's kind of interesting. But no, I was born in the house my grandma owned, and actually my Aunt Izzy built in like 1895. Not quite sure when she actually built it. But that was in our family for 120 years. My wife and I bought it in 2006 from the estate when my grandfather passed away. So nobody wanted to see it go. Worst financial decision I ever made in my life.
Right.
But landlord for that one for 10 years and said I had enough, and we let it go. By that time too, everybody was good letting the family house.
Right. So you own the house you were born in.
I did. So
I
did. Yeah.
Wow.
It was cool until you got into it. My grandfather, who was a union carpenter, did a lot of the work, but did some interesting work. So we did some electrical upgrades and things like that because it still had fuses. And then as we were doing some of the interior work, we're finding extension cords in there where you just extended it, not pipe, not anything else. I was like, okay, that's surprising. It didn't burn down.
That's up to code, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. A little looser back in the day.
I guess so.
So that was the 60s. Grew up in town. There was probably 4,500 people at that time, and really only 3 subdivisions. So, you had the Heritage area, you had the old Louis Beam, which is Harvey and school in there, and then we actually lived in the manor. So my grandfather, my dad built the house that we were in on Stewart Street, right off of Carroll Lane, and that's where I grew up.
So 3 subdivisions.
3 subdivisions.
So anybody listening to this who's either new here, like a lot of this is news to me, and I've lived here for 51 years. So the Manor was one of the original subdivisions.
That was the new one, because that was starting to go in the 60s. So, I mean, they were still building when, I was 4 or 5. That was still kind of going. Wow. So, yeah. The rest was just farmlands, and we had Black Angus cow farm up there on Washington Street, which is now Rollins, Savannah. So, back in the day, I think I got a paper route when I was 12, and you go out there in the early morning. Just like now, you hear the pop, pop, pop of the gun club.
Yes.
Every now and then you heard the mooing. If the atmosphere was right, it was like, okay.
So that was a Black Angus farm.
Black Angus, the Helgrens, who I went to school with, John Helgren. So, and a good friend of mine, Mark Shearer, who he worked on the farm too. They always had money because they'd go to Lake County Fair and sell their steer at the fairgrounds and be flush with cash.
Wow. So 4,500 people at that time.
Yeah.
And so your paper route went from all the way out there to going back to Rollins, Savannah.
Yeah. No, you know what? It was all in the Manor. So I just kind of did the Lake Street, the Manor around. It was a good gig, Had money. That was the day you had to go ring the doorbell to get paid. So you paid for the papers up front, and then you delivered them, and then you got paid when you got paid.
That's a completely different concept than our children will ever know.
Right. So, and if you wanted more money, you went and knocked on doors and said, you want to start a subscription to the paper.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I'm like one of the lone people that still get a subscription to the paper.
Okay, so you still read the newspaper.
I had Tribune and Daily Herald every day. My kids laugh at me, too, because I don't have it on auto pay. I actually write a check. And they're like, oh, my God, Dad. Not only are you still reading printed news, you pay for it with a check.
Right. And I don't think our kids will even know what a check is.
Oh, rarely.
Right.
Rarely.
Okay, so you started paper out. So having a paper out, you probably got to know, everybody at an early age, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly the town and the shortcuts and, where you went. And, so many of the bike paths that we did as a kid are, now they're public parks. So like Central Park, that was just a bicycle path. We used to ride our bikes to the middle school. That always got teased on, too. I had one of those big Schwinns with the big baskets because I needed it for the papers. Sunday papers were big back then.
Right.
But I also played the trombone, so it'd be like have this trombone in my basket. I'm going.
Do you have a picture of you on that bike?
Thank God, no. You talk about it when your 13-year-old think you were cool. It's just like I didn't have far to go to be cool.
That is hilarious.
Which I'm sure a few of my classmates were saying, boy, he's got that right.
Well, but you were a working man.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, and that's starting work ethic at a young age too, which is awesome.
I had great example. My dad was a huge worker, so he owned was co-owner of Bertrand Lanes. Actually, just retired. Last summer. So,
co-owner of Bertrand
Lanes. Yeah, there was 4 partners, and he ran that there for 60 years. So the Waukegan City Council just honored him back in June or July. Finally, he was 85 years old, so and still kicking. So
really,
and Mrs. Bowling, but yeah.
Okay, so then you grew up around bowling stuff then.
I did, and a lot of our kids, we didn't have soccer, so we all bowled. So every Saturday we went, which was funny too. So we went with my dad, and my 2 sisters and I. We get in the car like at 7 a.m. to go to the bowling alley, but we didn't bowl actually in our league till 11. So we were there the entire day. I think my mom was happy.
She got rid of everybody all at once.
That's right. But we grew up in the age too. It's especially in the summer, get out. Here's your breakfast. Now don't come back to lunch. And we just, played outside and did everything else.
So what was it like growing up here then? Like when you said go outside, what would you guys do? Where'd you go?
It was awesome because there was, Wright Stewart is a dead end street, and there was a junkyard right next to that. So we always went and explored in there. Of course, we weren't supposed to, but we did. But you were able to ride your bike everywhere. So did that. Certainly went downtown. Hoff's Kitchen was, one of my favorite places. Great burger. That's where Whitney's is now. That used to be Hoff's Kitchen. Back in the day. Great hamburgers and the shakes. Of course, Tasty Freeze Dog and Sons was still there. But there was, where West Trails is today, we called that Tree Island.
I used to hang out there.
Oh, my God. That was... the best, and jumping bikes and everything else. And
we've had some people tell some stories about that, but I think when we did it, but that was the hangout. It was like the taboo. Like we could hang out there, but I don't think it was a great idea to hang out there.
Yeah. So, and the cool kids went and drank Boone's Farm there. So, as we've already established, I wasn't the cool kid, so I wasn't out there drinking.
Well, you
Boone's
had a big
Farm.
enough basket. You could have brought all the Boone's Farm.
I could have been the. Here comes Steve with the supplies.
The liquor delivery. Looking back, that could have been a good business.
Yeah, maybe that. Well, see, I missed my opportunity. Bootlegger.
So Hoff's Kitchen, hanging out in Tree Island / where we call West Trail.
Yeah, and really you just rode your bike all over town.
Right.
Saw your friends or whatever else.
Yeah, and I don't think people understand too, especially looking back, like, did you go to Jones Island swimming?
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, that was the hangout, right?
Yeah.
You could go and do that anytime you wanted.
And a good friend of mine lived on Harvey, and he had one of those blow-up little 3-man rafts, and we'd go, roll that out in the middle of the lake and go swimming.
Right.
We wouldn't do that at all with our kids nowadays. We'd be like, oh, my God, you're going to drown.
Right.
Didn't
Right.
even think of that.
And we turned out fine.
Did we?
Some might say.
Yeah.
Grayslake, are you ready for some nonstop fun with the Grayslake Park District? Hundreds of classes, programs, community events, all designed to keep those smiles shining. Explore over 240 acres of parks, each a playground of excitement. Safety is their priority, ensuring a good time for all ages. From kids to the young at heart, the Grayslake Park District has something for everyone. Grab your seasonal program guide for memories that'll last a lifetime. Your adventure begins with the Grayslake Park District, where fun knows no limits.
Hello, Grayslake. It's Randy Cashmore with Cashmore Financial Group. It's no secret that I love our village, and a big reason for that is my membership with the Grayslake Chamber of Commerce. If you haven't taken a look at the Grayslake Chamber lately, you should. We're a wonderful group of business people creating a positive difference in the village we call home. Reach out and get involved today. You'll be glad you did.
Exactly.
So your family grew up here. So, like, were they born and raised here?
Yeah, so my mom and dad were. We got deep roots, and it's interesting. Both of them came roughly right around 1900s, 1904, 1905. Let's start with my mom's side because I'm a little better with that one.
Okay.
So John Carfield was the first guy that came over. He came over like in the 1850s, I want to say. That started it. His farm was where Coles and Round Lake is now. So on Rollins Road, that was like his farm. And then he had, 2 daughters. And then at some point they sold the family farm, and that was, one of the daughters was Aunt Izzy. And she built a house on Susser Street. And then her sister, Justina, she had my grandmother, who was Evelyn Clausen. And Evelyn moved into that house at 6 months. So her mom was Carrie, and she married Joe Pester. So, and the Pesters were well known around town. Ruth Pester was a 3rd grade teacher. She was one of those everybody was afraid of, but one of the best teachers that Grayslake had at the time, and that was at, Woodview School. So I'm an alumni of Woodview.
Wow.
But all the Pesters, they were blacksmith. And my sister and aunt, went back and all the way to the 1500s, and that's what they did for a living, blacksmiths, and then wheelwrights. They made the wheels, and then they came over, and there was 10 of them, and they had a monopoly on the blacksmithing around here. They had blacksmith shops in Grayslake, Lake Villa, Libertyville. Libertyville had a huge fire, and right down the street was Pester's Black Shop. It was, blacksmith shop. So obviously when the car was invented, there went that business. But so that was kind of my mom's side. My mom's dad's side then, and this is kind of an interesting story. So he was Danish, carpenter, came over in 1905. There's no record of him going through Ellis Island or anything like that. All of a sudden he showed up on a census in Waukegan. So thought process is he was a ship's carpenter, docked in Waukegan Harbor because they just came up, the St. Lawrence Seaway to Lake Michigan, and then just didn't get on the boat.
Right.
And then the next thing we know, so the Thompsons, who's also semi-related or friends with my father's side, they owned a farm on Haynesville Road and Washington, where Thornton's is today.
Okay.
So that was their family farm. Carl Clausen, that was his name, married their daughter, Dorothea, and then had my grandpa and his brother. So, and they shaved off a little bit of the property, and they built a house right there on Haynesville Road, and Carl was a architect. So any like stucco home that you see around, especially Highland Lake, he built.
Wow.
So many, I suppose, if you know Dr. Goshgarian, he had a big estate there. Sam Yingling lives in that house currently. But Doc Goshgarian was the neighborhood doctor. Interestingly enough, he delivered my mother, and he delivered my 2 sisters. So he was around for a long time. But his son then was a judge and an orthodontist, so old family name. But that was always fun to go see him, too, because it was back in the day. He smoked, and he's checking you out, putting the old smoky fingers in your hands like, oh, God.
Right.
But great old guy. So, and then Carl also built St. Andrew's Church. So, and I was raised Episcopalian, but it was cool that my great-grandfather built that church in 1927. 1927, that's been around. So,
holy smokes.
Yeah. So, and then what happened was the Depression came. There went the building business. And so what he did, and my grandpa always told this story, he and his brother, and his name was Carl also, they hand dug a pool. So some of your older listeners will remember the Artemis pool in Grayslake. But they used like horse-drawn plows and shovels to dig this pool. I think it took them like 2 years to dig out the pool.
Where was that pool at?
It was on Haynesville Road, and many are going to remember the roller rink that was there. So
yeah.
They built a roller rink in 1935. I think the pool was like 32. The roller rink was in 35. So it was the Artemis Park, and it was pool and roller rink. So my grandpa ran that, and those were some great memories because we went every Sunday to help. Well, we didn't clean up, but my grandpa cleaned up from the night before, and we got to skate. And for those that remember the old wood floor before they built the new one, it was a little wavy, but that was awesome. And I just buzzed around there and then we always got one chocolate bar.
Isn't it funny, the stuff you remember like that?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is the things you've talked about, like for entertainment-wise, but bowling and roller skating and swimming. Like those were the things that we did.
Yeah. I don't remember the pool. I think it was closed by the time we got around. And it's still there. They just pushed dirt in it. So it is in the ground there.
Man, would they be mad after hand digging that thing.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, they should have lasted forever like that.
Yeah. So, but my grandpa owned that roller rink. We were trying to figure out when he sold that. Late 70s, maybe 80. I don't really remember. And then there was a fire like 2 months after. Mysterious.
Right.
But then that guy, he was able to build a much nicer facility. So, I mean, and it was the concrete floor.
So
which
that's
we
not the
probably
original
remember.
building then?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's even gone now, too. They've got businesses in there now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That's been gone a long time.
Wow.
So
that was a big deal around like roller rink.
God, yeah. 8th grade, and that was the thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I think when I was at St. Gilbert, like we'd have 7th and 8th grade. Like you got to go there and do your roller rink parties. Right. Okay, so then you went to Woodview, and then you went to
Lakeview for 5th grade.
Lakeview,
yeah, which is cool because my grandmother went there. You know, they didn't have high school back in her day, but she went to Lakeview High School. Lakeview, and so did my mom.
And for people that don't know where Lakeview was, Lakeview is
Christian Westlake.
Westlake
now. Yeah, so right on the corner there. And then we went to junior high, which at that time was the middle school, but it was 6th, 7th, 8th. So, and then the high school was just Grayslake Community. There was only one high school. So, yeah, we got the big arena edition when I was like a freshman or whatever. So,
oh really?
That concept with the, in the circle or whatever in the round.
Right.
It's kind of interesting.
Wow. So you've seen everything change.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And then, I went to Illinois State, got my social science education degree.
Okay.
During my student teaching, I was like, I don't know if I really want to teach kids. I want to teach people that I like to teach, but, you spend a weekend in college putting together lesson plans, and then you get these straight faces of, what are you talking about? And I did my student teaching in Eureka, Illinois, home of Ronald Reagan. But
yes.
Farmers, I should have connected well with them, but they're just like, they could not, why do I need to know about this? So what's this have to do with
Right,
me?
that's not practical application for them.
It was hard. So, but when I graduated, my dad was just like, you know what, go down and talk to Jackie Murray, another old Grayslake name, but she ran the local real estate, her and Ray Beam, and go get your real estate license. That's what teachers do in the summer. So
Really?
I went to CLC and got my salesperson license, and the rest is history. Because then I became an agent from, 85, and I think I got my first managing gig at like 91. And then I've been managing and training, teaching new agents and experienced agents, and joined Baird & Warner where I am today in 1997. So
Really?
yeah, coming up on my 40 years in real estate. Hard to believe. I'm such a young man.
You are. You're a very, very young man. And no one would know by listening because you have a lot of energy. And we're recording this at like 8 o'clock in the morning, folks. He actually, you know how important Steve is that I got out of bed that early, too. Okay, so with running that, so even in the real estate way, you got to see, and I don't think people know enough about the Murray family as well, and like what an impact they had on Grayslake.
They are, what a awesome, and Bud was a state police trooper. They had 2 awesome daughters too, and actually they're still in town. And then Lori's daughter, Eric Gunther, still lives on Slusser, but he's the village manager of Mundelein. He was the police chief. So I mean, and I think, man, if they're looking up in heaven at Eric, going, okay, look at that. And funny, Eric still has Bud 4 as his license plate.
I know,
because the joke was always, what's a Bud 4?
That's great.
But I was I think Bud was the one that got me on the Economic Development Commission way back in the late 80s, because he was on that then. And Mike Ellis was there too. That's one that was kind of starting. So
okay, so that was like when Grayslake, like the chamber, everything, like back in the 80s.
Yeah, and that. I guess that's the sad thing is, the malls killed downtown. When we lost the Ben Franklin was just brutal.
Yes.
And then we went through a long time where the town was just dead. So this group of people kind of said, hey, what can we do to kind of revitalize it? Let's kind of just think outside the box. How are we going to, compete against the malls? And look at that, full circle.
Right. Yeah. And competing against the malls, we're talking about like Lakehurst and Hawthorne being built out there too.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So tell me, like, when you had to think outside the box to change that. So we had Ben Franklin, we had the drugstore there, we had the True Value. I think at that time we had all of those. So shopping local was a big thing. That was our only choices until those were. Yeah,
because you still had the outdoor theater still then too. So Jewel and True Value wasn't even open yet. So
do you have any idea when that? Speaking of, well, that's another thing we did as kids. Everybody went to the outdoor.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea when they tore that down? I have a photo my dad took, and I think they were taking it down. I'll have to dig that up.
I want to say that was the early 90s.
Right.
Very early 90s, because I feel like we were married, and I want to say Susan and I went like one of the last times, like, hey, we got to do this.
Right.
But she grew up in Wheaton, Winfield, and they had West Chicago there had a old outdoor theater too, so she was familiar with the experience.
Right. And people that don't know about the outdoor theater, that's where Jewel is at.
Correct.
That was a big deal for
Grayslake.
Big deal
when that went down.
Yeah, because we didn't have, we had grocery stores. We had the Parkway.
Yeah, Parkway Foods. And now look at that. And that used to be Pete's Park before our time.
Well, okay, Pete's Park. Tell me about Pete's Park.
Well, it was before the park district, so to speak. So this was an individual, and it was just a park. Had a huge flood in the 50s. You got to get Charlotte. She could tell you all about
we're going to
that.
have Charlotte very soon. I'm writing that one down for her.
Yeah. And that was always there. Parkway Foods was the Hall family that built that. And so it was the National, which was a national food chain. I don't remember the National there.
I do not.
Yeah. So where the Dollar General was the National, and some people shopped at the National, some people shopped at Parkway.
Oh, and those are stones throw away from each other.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the Hall family had it, and then the Bowers also, right? Or I think they were partners or something.
Yeah, caterers or something. I don't know how that all evolved. Yeah, and now that's gone, and there's a condo building there. So.
And that was a big face change for Grayslake.
Huge, and they really wanted residential at the time. You look back and say, I wish we would have done things a little differently. Certainly put the parking right after into the intersection with the light. That would have made a whole lot of sense.
Right.
But they didn't want that ugly thing looking down Center Street. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy and what are we doing that for? But I mean, I think it's a nice thing to have, and then hopefully we get a few more residential buildings like that around town because it just brings up the vibrancy, the money, etc.
Yes. So you're involved with like behind the scenes on this stuff, so you got to see all of these things change and the pushback and the support and of all of those things.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to our trustees, and man, 40 years that I've been involved, it's they're on the front lines, so the Economic Development Commission, all it is an advisory committee. So we come up with ideas, or how can we get this, or here's what we would like to see. It's up to them to do it. And one of the reasons why I never wanted to be a trustee, because no matter what decision you make, somebody's going to be mad at you.
Of course.
And to be able to, okay, what's really best for the whole town, maybe not just this section. And we've run into a lot of things. Anything you want to build or change, people are like, no, we don't want any change. It's just like, what you don't understand is everything's been changed. This was farmland here.
We didn't get this way in one day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, with all the pushback about Casey's.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
And, you look at that, and then there was one on, the North Point, the Shell. That had so much pushback. But look how nice that is. And you're looking at Casey's as it's going up. That's a nice improvement for the town.
I believe so,
too.
And
everybody complains about our taxes. Well, these are the things that help bring the taxes down.
Absolutely.
So I think it's good. It's a nice addition. So I give our trustees and mayor credit for having the backbone to say, this is good for the community. We're going to move forward.
Yeah. So everybody, before you start criticizing them, think about actually what they have to do, and they're actually they're not doing it they're not getting yelled at for fun for themselves. Yeah. They're actually trying to improve our town.
$5,000 annual salary they get for doing it. So yeah, it's and they're all Grayslake people. So it affects everything they do. So, man, I think we've got one of the best village boards right now we ever had, and no politics in it. I think that's the biggest thing. They're just, it's not a Republican or a Democrat. It's just like what's best for the town.
Right.
Most people have no idea what to do with their aging loved one who needs help. Well, there is a solution. A company that provides care and assistance to make your loved one feel right at home. At Right at Home, their mission statement is to improve the quality of life for those they serve. They offer extensive services: personal and companion care, safety supervision and transportation, fall prevention, dressing and bathing assistance, medical reminders, meal prep, hospice support, ambulation support, stroke recovery, Parkinson's support. The list goes on and on and on. If you have an aging loved one that needs help, call Right at Home. Most people prefer to age in their home rather than moving to an assisted living or nursing home. Right at Home can make this happen. Contact Right at Home at rightathomenlc.com or give them a call, 847-984-0103. Now back to the show.
And truly, they're all really solid people.
Yeah.
And have been here and actually care.
Yeah, and that's, sincere care. I'm not looking to go to the next level. I'm just, what can I do to help my town?
Right. And it's funny because even since I started doing the show, it's kind of funny that, having a show with Elizabeth Davies and I didn't know a lot about how our governmental thing, but they're just really good people trying to improve things, which I think this show gives us the vehicle to actually tell people what they're doing and hear their stories of how they're just trying to do their best.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But, I think like everybody these days, everybody complains about everything. So everybody has an opinion, which is just a freer to express it these days through the interwebs.
And speaking of, I better talk about my dad's side
I
get criticized on that. So they came up from Chicago, and their first farm was right on the corner of 45 and 120, where the Shell station is right now.
Yep.
So that's the first one. And then they bought more acreage just east of there. And built a home that was in like 1938. So my dad is one of 7, and that house is still we've got it on the market right now. So trying to do that. So they moved there, but all of the brothers and stuff either worked on the Donnelly farm back in the day or the Sears estate, which was the old Country Squire, which is where Northwestern Hospital is, and the hotel, which is one of the things the Economic Development Commission brought in, was like the first hotel in ages after those. So that was a lot of work. But very cool. But the state came in and took some property for Route 53. Big controversy. Then the park or the forest preserve did eminent domain on the old farmhouse, and some of the family rallied in order to say that's not right. And I guess here's my my speech on what National Association of Realtors do.
Yes.
We're the only organization that fights for private property rights. So my biggest complaint I had, and this happened to a lot of the old farmers around here, you know, the Round Savannah is beautiful right now and such a great thing to have. Unfortunately, when the Forest Reserve was taking all that, you had all these farmers that, you know, they came in the late 1800s, 1900s. They've been farmed. That was their land forever. And they came in and just took it. For the public good, I get that. The problem I always have with it is I'm an unwilling seller. Don't pay me what it says the appraised value is. It should be 2 times the value or something. You're taking something I wasn't willing to give, or do a life estate. So it's yours until you pass away, and then we're going to pay whatever the going rate is. So I'm all for the public good, but you know what? I'm an unwilling seller. Don't, you know, make it okay for me.
Right.
And I know one of the farmers up there on Rollins Road, then they found a old oil tank, and they took that off the price of what they gave him to him. Just like, man, you take his land and then you also stiff him with a bill.
You're fining him for taking his land.
Exactly.
Wow. I wouldn't even think about that because it's such a beautiful thing, but they had to literally push people out.
Yeah, a lot of farmers lost lifetime farm. Just kind of sad.
Unbelievable.
Sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So I'm mentioning one of my brothers. So a lot of people know Dick and Joanne Lawrence of Grayslake, extremely involved in this town, and I think that's, you know, one of the reasons I've always been involved too. When I first got in the chamber, Joanne was the executive director. She was working at Home Federal Savings and Loan back in the day. What's funny is that's where I started, you know, paper route. I saved some money, but that's where my account was. It's still there as it's gone through.
That's great.
I would BNC, but yeah, kind of funny that stayed. But Dick was a mainstay here at the feed store for years and years, and just outstanding people. So their family's still around the area. The cousins are still around. There's a lot of family still in the area. So.
Wow, so you have, I mean, to say that you have deep roots here is a complete understatement. Wow. So both sides of the families, but
yeah,
it's very strange when you say, okay, they got off here, but I guess if your grandfather gets off a boat in Waukegan Harbor, I guess it's not that strange that they end up in Grayslake, but for everybody to be here,
yeah,
it's crazy. That's how it starts, and that's how it rolls.
And so many of them knew each other back in England. You know, my dad's side came from Wales. My mom's side more was some, Somerset, Avon. Okay. So, I mean, they all kind of knew everybody, and like the Thompsons, Thompsons knew my dad's side of the family. I think some of them even married into that side. You know, and then my mom's side with Carl marrying a Thompson. So, but it, you know, small community back then and lots of acreage, and they were all farmers. So That's what you did. You know. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's really crazy that they knew themselves. They knew each other then, and then end up here. And then end up as the foundation of what we're all living in
here
today.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah, I was looking through because I asked Steve to write down some, little backstory on him, and I got this thing and I was reading it last night going, oh my God. I can't even, all of the things. I think most of the people that live here take for granted the things that we have. Or even when I moved into Avon on the Prairie, which was in 86, that was the only little subdivision there, and it was farm fields from the only thing between 45 all the way to 83 was that little neighborhood beside CLC. Yeah. And everything else was cornfields.
And that was one of those early subdivisions. So we really blew up in the 90s. That's when, Cambridge, all those came in, and Harry and Farms. And this always I love too. So it was Harry and Ann Epstein who owned the gelatin factory. That's how Harry and Farms came to be. But it's Harry and Ann. And anybody who lives on Sawia there, that's Cy, William, and Harry. They developed part of that area. So
see, now that's great information. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, so that you actually know the people behind the names
Well,
of...
two of them, they're older
Knew
than
of
me,
them.
but yeah.
Right.
I'm not that old.
Wow.
But yeah, it's that lost history, we're just
Yes.
gonna...
Well, remember when they used to call it Upper Harvey?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, but because if you lived on Upper Harvey,
That's right.
you had I think the Halls lived there, and
Yeah, they were around the corner, but yeah, you had all the engineers, and Ray Beam lived there too.
Yes.
Which is kind of interesting because now his granddaughter, she's an attorney down in Libertyville, Rebecca McNeil. Great real estate attorney, so it's kind of like there's a nice little Grayslake connection, but
goes all together.
yeah.
Wow.
And then Ray and John Waldenstrom did then West Trails, and then they also built then this building, which,
Right.
this could have been a bowling alley. So my dad owned this property, but there was no sewer and water, and at the time the village board said no sewer and water would come out here. So we could be bowling a few games right now.
That would be great. Not good for my health because we'd have to have a couple beers along with that. And speaking of that, I'd like to thank Luke from Agora here. I was so excited to get started here but thank you to Agora for letting us record here. So if anybody's looking for a space to rent just for the day, for the month, or for a long time, Agora co-working space, which is a really cool idea. But we're sitting right on the corner of Atkinson and Center Street. So shout out to them. And Luke, sorry for fitting that in. But this could have been a bowling alley.
It could have been, but it turned out really nice here too.
Yeah.
It served a different need.
Yeah. So what was here? Because it was just cornfields here for a long time.
Yeah.
And then what was the building that was built here first? I know a lot of real estate.
Yeah, but yeah, where Remax Center was here, which not even in business anymore. They're just gone. But that's what it was built for. John built it. Was different businesses what it is. This was the big anchor, I suppose.
Right.
And they were here for 20, 25 years?
A long time. We've had a lot of people that we've interviewed here and be like, hey, my first office was right here. Which is funny, even just the little change over a really relatively short amount of time. Yeah, and then across the street and all of these things that have been built, all the little, whatever you call them, the little outlets with all the different stores.
Malls and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. When they built all the, like the Harrion Farms and the West Trails and stuff, was it just because was it the supply or was it the demand or a little of both that people wanted to move to Grayslake?
It definitely was a demand, and I think too it was like my generation wanting to come back home, or it's a great place to live. And being a realtor, a lot of people started in Libertyville. This was a cheaper version, or what you could get for $300 or $250 here. You got a much older home in Libertyville. So a lot of the buyers started in Libertyville and said, I don't like that. Well, let me drive you up here. And brand new construction, and off you go.
Right.
Interestingly enough, we're in that same zone now. We have so much demand, and again, so many people want to be in this area, and there's really no housing that $250,000, $300,000 housing. In order with the development costs and everything else, starting homes are at $500,000, $600,000. So it's, and then in Grayslake, you're going to have a, $18,000, $20,000 tax bill.
Right.
So it's tough to get new construction built.
Wow.
But demand is there.
Right. So you are still on the chamber.
Still
in the chamber. How many years have you been in the chamber? Since the 80s?
Yeah, we were trying to figure that out. We just honored Tim Rafferty at our annual event, and he was on like a year before me, and we were trying to figure out him, and I know he was like 88, something like that. I kind of came in right around there then too. So yeah, I've always wanted to be involved. It was also a great way to, as a realtor, meet people.
Sure.
And that was before really computers and certainly no social media. So you had to go out and be with people.
Wow. So it's a long time to dedicate your stuff to there, and I'm sure it could be something easily that you'd be like, I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'll give a shout out to my wife because I couldn't have done any of that stuff without, a wonderful person at home that took care of our 3 kids or whatever else. But the kids were always involved in a lot of stuff too that we did, the parades and everything else. Anything that they could do, they kind of helped out with. But I'll echo what Tim said at the installation. Is just like, you do this stuff for the good of the community, but while you're doing it, you're having a whole lot of fun. And the people that you're with, you're having a ball. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't do it.
Right.
So, as much as it was hard, and I was talking about hanging Christmas lights, Tim, Mike, Alice, and myself, when the trees were young, and just having brittle hands, but going in the last chance to warm up, have a beer, that probably helped us.
It probably helped us.
At least we didn't fall off a ladder. But, I mean, we still laugh about it, and that was, 20-some years ago now. And now look at it. We're putting 200,000 plus lights around town. It's just like where the town has grown, I think, is just amazing. And again, we're one of 2 or 3 communities that is debt free, and that's solid planning. It's and Mike's been around since 85, 86, I think is when he came
Mike
as
Ellis,
village
yes.
manager.
Yeah.
And certainly through a lot of trustees and mayors, but they've always had that fiscally sound approach, and I think that's huge. And we've got new water mains, new sewer mains that the developers came in, and that's what they spent it on. And even the non-sexy stuff, burying like the electrical wires around downtown. So one, we're not going to lose power in a storm, but 2, it looks nicer. So, right. But it's not cheap, and it's like sewer work. You spend millions of dollars. What do you got to show for it? Well, you don't have flooding. You don't have, that's those type of things.
And it's a big deal for us to be debt free.
Oh, huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah, and that's great, and that it gives you the opportunity to do things we need to do.
Correct.
Right.
Not paying interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's huge.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to pause right here, and we're going to do, which I know you've listened to a couple shows, and we're going to get our Grayslake hot seat questions in before we.
It's time for the Grayslake hot seat. The Grayslake Hot Seat today is brought to you by Premier Chiropractic. Dr. John, conveniently located in historical downtown Grayslake. Premier Chiropractic offers you a full range of chiropractic care. John is dedicated to treating people within our community and showing them the benefit of great, convenient, affordable chiropractic care. So if you're looking to get straightened out, go see Dr. John at Premier Chiropractic. Now for the Grayslake Hot Seat.
Just a lightning round? I'm awesome at the lightning round, as Ross says.
That's well. I'm going to start off with this one, just because I think I already know what yours is going to be.
Okay.
If you had to have one superpower, what would it be?
Well, as I told you, I was stealing my wife's, but teleportation.
Teleportation.
Just be there. Bam.
It would be good as a realtor, too. You could do a lot of showings in one day,
there
too.
You go.
You could bounce from one to the other, or just get the hell out of here when you need to. Tell me a place you'd like to travel that you've never been.
Canada. Toronto, Quebec, something like that. Yeah.
Never have heard that before.
Well, there you go.
Very cool. What was your first car? Did it have a basket on the front of it, too?
No, it was a Pontiac Le Mans. It was cool. Big old 2-door.
What year was that?
The first one I owned that wasn't like a hand-me-down.
Yeah.
That would have been 84. So best dad in the world is you go to college. Once you graduate, number one, he paid for college, and number two, gave us a car, brand new car.
That's awesome.
It was very cool. So you graduate, you went down to Rockenbach and pick out your car.
That's funny.
Thanks, Pops.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Would a 12-year-old version of yourself think you're cool?
Well, yeah, we've already covered that because the 12-year-old version was a nerd. And poor me, I had I had the outside mouth gear. So in 6th grade, I had braces up until senior picture. I finally got them off. So I was, I've had glasses since I was in 3rd grade. So yeah, I was quite the lady killer.
I guess so. And now even more, I want to see that picture of you driving with your headgear on and the basket.
I'm talking to my sister on that.
Because that we'll use for the show picture for this one.
Oh, great.
Like, do you know this guy? Have you ever had a nickname?
Reno.
Reno. Why Reno? Why Reno?
You're
a gambler?
Yeah, you would think. And, I'm a bowler, and that's where the National Bowling Center is in Reno, Nevada. Has nothing to do with it. A friend of mine started calling me Steve-O Reno, and Reno stuck.
Wow.
So, but yeah, people think it's gambling. It's like, well, no.
Right. See, if I met you and you told me your name was Reno, I'd never play cards with you.
Yeah, there you
There's
go.
absolutely no way. Here's my just because it's just me. Have you ever ate a roller dog from a gas station?
No, but they had them at the bowling alley, and they were delicious.
Really?
But they got eaten quick.
See? There's supply and demand. I'm telling you, everybody thinks I'm crazy, but it's a thing, guys.
You are crazy.
It's a thing. Right. There's no question about that one. What's your middle name?
Michael.
Have you ever broke a bone?
No. Stitches.
Really?
No broken bones.
I've had lots of stitches too, but never bones. I think we're kind of lucky. Well, it depends how many stitches you've had, I guess. But if you had to have a theme party at your house, what would it be?
Wow. Boy, I think I would have known that one.
Yeah. Or would your wife decide?
We wouldn't have a party.
Oh, you just
We're
wouldn't
very
have
homebodies. We're not big travelers. I was born and raised in Grayslake. Haven't gone anywhere. I'm not the world traveler, Dave. I'm not going to Italy or anything else.
It sounds like you're a very busy man. So, all right. So then, since you stay at home, but when there's an event in town, what is your favorite Grayslake event to attend?
I've always liked summer days. The bands are always great, and especially the last couple of years. And shout out to Brian Vecchione, who puts all those together and gets them. They've just really upped their game from what it used to be. But you see so many Grayslake people, and that's usually where I see like my old classmates once a year. It's like, hey, and trying to have a conversation with loud music because now I'm old. I'm like, huh?
And everybody's drinking beers at the same time too.
But we got a great program coming up this year. So we've got Red, which is a Taylor Swift cover band. We got Dancing Queen, which is ABBA.
Yeah.
And shoot, what's Friday? Mary Beth's gonna kill me. I can't remember what Friday is.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing here, folks listening, is to hear how excited Steve is about it. And that shows your passion in your job, which is cool, because that is a great event.
Yeah. Beer Fest is great, too. And what we have been able to raise for graduating seniors, and anybody, parent or grandparents with a graduating senior in North or Central, Chamber gives away, we're giving $2,000 away to 8 students this year. I think we've come close to about $400,000 that we've given out, and our main fundraiser for that is the Beer Fest. So that's a fun event too.
That's awesome. So what I hear you saying to me is, come drink beer because it's for the kids.
That's right.
Okay.
Help somebody out.
Right.
There you go.
I will lend a hand.
And it's Father's Day this year, so bring your dad, and there you go. So we're going back to June.
Father's Day and Beer Fest.
Yeah, that's hand in hand.
Wow.
There you go.
And I even said that backwards, which I probably would that day as well.
And what it really is good, now I've seen your excitement about that, Dave. So,
Exactly.
Grab Griff and say, let's go drink some beers, buddy.
Amen. So, Griff, if you're listening, let's celebrate Father's Day together. But that's kind of a cool day to do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. So all the wives out there and all the moms, you know, if you want to give the best Father's Day gift this year, honey, just go have fun. I'll watch the kids. Everything will be good.
There you go. Ticket release party is April 11th, and you can get discounted VIP tickets, etc. that day. So, and that's at Beer Bazaar, Nodder. So there you go.
That's awesome. I can see you have nothing to do with any of this. Okay, so because you've listened to the podcast, do you have a favorite episode that you've listened to?
Well, I'm going to say Nano.
Okay. So now did you and Nano meet through real estate?
No, mutual friends. I mean, we were on my kids went to North, her kids went to Central, but, before you get to the high school, you intermix. So a lot of our kids' friends intermix. So, and then Nano got a real estate license, I want to say in like 2021, and came to me, and we've been, working together now for 20 plus years. She's awesome. She's a nice lady.
She's absolutely one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
She's
hard not to like.
Yeah.
So.
Amen. So shout out to Nano.
So, and she needs some homes to sell. So if anybody's thinking that they got to move, give Nano a call.
Get ready. And I think this is where her ad plays right after
this.
Oh, perfect. Yes, she's the gracious sponsor of the show. So thanks, Nano. So when you eat tacos, do you tilt your head to the right or the left?
I usually put it in a bowl and munch up the thing. So sorry.
You're so smart. And it's a lot less sloppy then too.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so if you had somebody that came here that you had no idea about Grayslake and you wanted to show them our town and how awesome it is, where would you take them first?
As all realtors do, we drive right downtown Center Street. And I mean, that is the jewel of our town. And what's nice from other towns that even have downtowns, we can close the streets. So those celebrations are huge. Now that we've got so many different restaurants, etc., it's a nice entertainment district. After that, it's the lake, it's the different parks. I mean, the bike paths and parks we have are amazing. Got a terrific park district we have.
People take that for granted, I think,
Yeah.
of how awesome some of the stuff we have is.
Yeah, and College of Lake County is such a huge asset to Grayslake.
Huge. And I didn't realize, I know this is way off topic, but so my son's at CLC now, and they start hanging out with these people. I had no idea how many students actually come, rent places around here, and actually live here, that they're from Madison or Dubuque or wherever, and they come to our town and they live here and go to school there.
Yeah, great school. Now with the University Center, you can do all that too.
Well, thank God for the University Center right now
Yes,
as well, which I don't know how timeless this will be, but that story right there with GMS closing and them going to the University Center will be a story to be told for years.
Yeah.
And how fast that happened, I know people can talk however they want about how everything happened, but those decisions were made quick and they made it accessible for these kids. And somebody's eating a bag of stuff about that, but I tell you what, I tip my hat to making the best of a terrible situation.
Yeah.
So
there's another thankless job, school board. Oof.
Yes. And all the people that usually complain know nothing about it.
Correct.
So I think my job now is to like it or love it, but we need to educate people on what those people do. And they're normal people just like us.
And just want the best too.
Right. And nobody takes that job because it's glamorous or anything like that. So everybody chill out. I mean, come on. You don't have to like it, but give them a break a little bit.
Feel the love, Dave.
Exactly. I'm so sick of, I try to live my life very positively and, think bad things happen. And they're going to continue to happen. To think that we've seen the worst of anything. And every time you think you have it bad, there's a family out there, there's somebody dealing with a lot more shit than you are.
100%.
So open your eyes.
Be kind.
Kids, be kind. Okay, so Steve Lawrence walks in somewhere. What's the theme song playing?
Here I go again.
All right. Bartender, can I have a...
Oh, old-fashioned.
Really?
Yeah, if it's in Wisconsin, it's brandy. If it's in Illinois, it's bourbon.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's nothing like a Wisconsin old-fashioned, by the way.
I know.
Yes. Have you ever won an award?
Several. I was past president or president of our local association. I was Realtor of the Year, Associate Realtor of the Year. I volunteered a lot for the Realtors also. So, yeah.
So real estate's your passion.
Without a doubt. Definitely found my niche in life. And, it's such a rewarding career. So, as agents, there's no better drug than matching up the house with the people. And the joy and the impact you're having on their life for the rest of their life, right. Getting them into a house. Certainly there's been ups and downs in this market. 2008 and 2009 were just heartbreaking for so many people. But for some people, you get them out of that situation. That was such a relief. So, I mean, it's a very rewarding career. Very rewarding career.
Yes, and it's one of those things that I think that maybe you don't understand that if you're in it, but to see that, and I love that you have the passion for that because you actually see what it's about, and I think people think it's easy to be a realtor. You see a lot of people get their real estate license, they're like, well, I can't do that, so I'll sell houses. That's easy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's totally what they think.
Talk to a busy realtor and, text them or leave a voice message that they won't get back to you because they're busy all the time.
That's right. Because they want a flexible schedule. My answer always to that is as flexible as your client. So if they want to see a house at 2 o'clock, you better be flexible.
Yeah, and if you're a go-getter, you have to be a go-getter to be a successul realtor.
100%.
Yeah, which means 100%. Throw away your free time and go there. So with that being said, are you a texter or are you a talker? How do you get a hold of? If I'm calling you, do I text you? Or I call you?
Yeah, definitely text and then I'll call you back. So,
which we did last night.
That's right. There you go.
And I was smart enough to know that you were busy enough that I wasn't going to call you.
Yeah, I was in a bowling tournament, so.
And you're still bowling?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, 2 leagues a week and one at Bertrand's on Tuesdays and then Thursdays we're at Lakes here. So
that's awesome. Okay, so I do have a question in here. We're going to end with what's your highest score in bowling then?
290. Have not gotten a 300 yet, but 290.
290. So what's your average then?
200 right now.
Really?
So it's kind of going down. You lose a little speed in your age. So I've gone down to a 15-pound ball trying to keep the speed up, but you still miss a few spares every now and then.
My son is now bowling and they absolutely love it. It's like to pick up. It's a good wholesome thing to do.
Yeah, and it's actually rebounding. It went for a while that nobody really was bowling, and it's still a commitment. This is a 32-week league, but what else do you do in the winter around here? It's
right.
Fantastic.
Right.
So, and it's good guys that bowl, and that's like you say.
I would join a bowling league because it gives me one day a week to dedicate to drink with my friends. So Griff, if you're interested in bowling.
There you go. Well, and there's a lot of leagues you can do once every other week or once every 3 weeks, and there's a lot of those popular right now. So
that's fun.
It is fun.
So what is your favorite? So that's the end of our hot seat question.
Okay.
So with Grayslake and all the changes that have changed, can you identify like one giant thing that has really changed the face of this town, like recently, like one either business that we brought in or something that's changed a lot of stuff?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is bringing in Medline. And then that brought water and sewer down all the way to Allegheny and Peterson Road, which is going to allow all of that to be filled in with kind of the newer businesses that are now going to go. Being on that Economic Development Commission for so long, you always, like when FedEx came, we were like, all right, here we go. And then nothing really came from that because you just didn't have the infrastructure. But for Medline to come in, and shout out to the 2 Mundelein schools that did some tax abatement, which allowed that to happen, because otherwise they'd be up in Pleasant Prairie right now. They gave us a tour. Unbelievable facility, and so well run and efficient. What a jewel for Grayslake to have.
The FedEx place.
Medline.
Oh, the Medline place, yeah.
Man, that is so high tech, and they got it. As they say, we're delivering medical supplies. There's no excuse. It's, if you ever get a chance to do it, man, it is what a facility. Huge, but that's the bigger thing. To get a water tower down there. That's now will probably give us some more residential, et cetera. Unfortunately, it's a different school district, but it helps everything.
Right.
So more jobs, more homes. It's just going to be.
Wow. So we have all that property over by like the FedEx and everything.
Central Range.
That's what's called Central Range.
It's Central Range.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the old Heartland that they tried to build homes in there, and then Grayslake didn't want it, so then there was a huge lawsuit, and then stopped. You don't know anything about that?
I don't know anything about it.
Have somebody else talk about it when Mike gets in here. He knows all the Heartland stuff. So
really?
Yeah. So.
And how hard is it to get rid of that property there because it's across from the garbage dump?
Which is getting close to closing. So we've been very efficient with recycling, so that's actually supposed to have been closed already, but they've kept the height down because that's what it is. So it's almost nearing capacity, so probably only got a couple
Am I allowed
years.
to call it the garbage dump? Because I've always called it the cars. So.
Yeah.
What is the actual name for that?
Between friends.
Right. Because nobody's listening
I
to this
it's
anyway.
a landfill. But then it'll be Mount Trashmore, and then it'll be nice. It'll be a nice little thing.
I always thought that was going to end up being a sled or a ski hill or something like that.
Yeah, right into the new 137 and 83. That'll be perfect.
Right. Yeah, and all that. And you said before about the 53 expansion because that's been a story for 20 years.
Yeah, and now they abandoned it. They took part of my family's farm, and then they're not even going to use it. It's and then what happens to all that? It's going to be kind of interesting. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because every time we go down 53, it's just like, I wish they would have built this all the way up here.
It would. It made sense. The plan made sense.
But flying cars are coming soon, so then it won't matter.
We don't even need these roads,
right?
And you'll be teleporting to anywhere you need to go anyway.
Go.
So it all comes full circle like that.
It works.
So as we get towards the end here, I look through all of these things and I see like the Hoff's Kitchen, and I see that. Oh, also I see on you also worked at Great America when you were a kid too.
It was an awesome job, 5 years, and for those that remember, I worked the Delta Flyer. So being in rides was the coolest. See, that's when I was cool, Dave.
Okay. Was the headgear on then, or was that?
It was all gone.
Okay.
See, and I was 6'2", and I graduated high school. I was only like 5'7", so I kind of was a late bloomer, as they say. And but yeah, I worked at Great America.
And that was Marriott Great America.
Marriott, right. The Delta Flyer, which was the cable cars. But what was cool about that is anytime the wind got up to 20, they shut the ride down, and they shipped you wherever there was a hole. So I worked so many, the Demon, the American Eagle. American Eagle, funny, they wanted live test dummies on that. We rode that before the pads and stuff were in. Was awesome. Of course, being 18, 19-year-old, hey, we need some people that want to ride the American Eagle. We're in.
Right.
You get all rattled around.
It still is a rough ride.
Oh, it is.
And
but imagine with no pads.
Oh,
it's
my
just like you
gosh.
get banged around, and they said, okay, now we need you in the back. Go run it this time. I was like, okay.
The live test dummies.
But what a great place to work. I mean, actually, one of my best friends that I have now, that's where I met him, and we're bowlers together. So we've been bowling for like 40 years together now. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you and your family, so you have 3 kids.
3 kids, wonderful wife, married in '89. Met her at ISU. So yeah.
So now, are they all daughters? Do you have,
My oldest is a son. He lives out in Cincinnati, works for Fidelity. My middle daughter, she works at 7th grade teacher at Hawthorne South. And then my youngest is math interventionist at McHenry at Duker. So, and she just got married this past summer, which because you blew off. Hey, Dave, can you be my DJ? No, I'm too busy for you, Steve, but yeah, you're a cool guy.
Hey, I was honest. I wasn't making. I didn't at that point. I wasn't making any life commitments to anything. So it was in respect to you and your family. So
it was good. And Dan, who he gave us, was fantastic. He was
Yeah.
great. And then Kristen Cashmore was our photographer. Who is anybody getting married? There's my shout out to Kristen. She was phenomenal and her team. It's funny. My daughter just came down this Saturday, and we watched the whole everything. And really, that was the first time I saw every single picture and every single video. So
really?
It was like reliving that moment. It was special. And she married a super good guy. So, and that's all we really want for our kids, right? Find the right person.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Find the right person the first time.
That's
right. Other than the second or third or whatever that might be.
It's too costly.
Right. I have a lot of wedding experience, let's just say that.
I bet. Well, and you probably did a few weddings going, oh, this one's not going to last.
Do you know what? I could honestly stand there, and at the end of it, like after a while, you could sit there and you could feel the vibe off of people if it was going to go. And meeting the families. And, of course, a lot of people were very free in telling me what they thought about the couple, too. Whether it was the dad of the bride or the dad of the groom going, we're just here. I'm going to buy this tux because I'm going to need it again. I'm not renting it. So
you got to love the open bar.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if I could write a book on the stories I've heard from people, like watching the other people go. Oh, my gosh. So that's crazy.
You probably could.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be... It'll be in the world. I'll have to publish it after I die, though, because that way I can divulge everything that happened everywhere, and no one can hold me liable for anything.
On that contract.
Right. Just to see how people and throw everybody under the bus. All right. So what didn't we cover? What do you want Grayslake to know that we haven't covered? We've covered a lot of the history and what's going on now, and how the people behind the decisions shaping our town.
I feel people are just exhausted. It's like, probably, is he done talking yet?
Well, there's a lot, and there's a story behind all the little things we talked about.
Yeah. No, this is, you know what? I just highly recommend this town. And even as we've grown, I think we've grown well. And, hats off to all the people that do the right things for the right reasons, and just keep giving themselves. There's volunteers every day, and seeing the new chamber where we're at and seeing the new blood that are coming up there, I'm finally allowed to kind of slow down and let somebody else take some of those reins too and make it even better, because we just keep getting better and better, and I think that's a testament to the people. Right. Not anything else, but just good people that want the best for everybody.
Right.
So.
Well, I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done over the years to help bring things in and doing the right thing, whether it's popular opinion or unpopular opinion. But you guys are making big decisions, so cheers to you for all the hard work you've given to our community.
Thank you.
Yes,
and
you're still going.
I'm still going. I'm
still
a young
going.
man.
You got time to make some bad decisions.
I'm part of the Silver Tsunami.
Silver Tsunami. That is awesome. That will be the title of our episode.
Okay.
Silver Tsunamis.
Better than Nerd on a Bike.
Right. Well, we have options.
There we go.
It's good to have options. Well,
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Steve Lawrence. Thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate taking the time to sit down and talk to me, too.
It's been great, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody that's listening, no matter where you're listening, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're on YouTube, or Amazon Music, wherever you're listening, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't be afraid to write a review on here as well, too. Whether you love it or you hate it, it helps us out either way. So have it.
This was your favorite episode.
Absolutely, my favorite, hands down. So if people ever ask my favorite episode, at least
that's right. And we're just drinking coffee here, Dave.
Right, exactly.
So,
He brought me coffee. So if you want the way to my heart, favorite episode, bring coffee. Grayslake, thank you so much. Keep up the great work out there. And as I always say, make sure to just take one random act of kindness every single day. So whatever you're doing out there, do something nice for somebody in our community. It only brings everything up, and kindness is contagious. So help somebody out today. Let's keep making our community fantastic. So thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.